Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship Unboxed, your front row seat to the stories, struggles, and secrets behind today's most innovative startups, entrepreneurs, and investors. I'm your host, AJ, and today we have a truly captivating episode lined up for you. Have you ever wondered what sets thriving businesses apart from those that struggle to keep up? It often boils down to one thing: their clients. How do you identify your ideal client? What emotional triggers can you tap into to create lasting, profitable relationships? Our guest today, Suzanne Reilley, has mastered this art. With years of experience as a business coach, marketing strategist, and copy advisor, Suzanne has helped countless entrepreneurs and founders refine their client selection process, ensuring not just financial success but deep, meaningful connections. Get ready to take notes because this episode is packed with insights that can transform your approach to business. Let's dive in. Suzanne, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Can you tell us a bit about yourself? What inspired you to start business coaching SuzanneReilley.com? And what was your career before taking the entrepreneurial path?
Sure. So I actually started out as a personal trainer. I have a degree in exercise science, and I was never interested in taking any marketing courses or business courses or anything along those lines. But then when I wanted to get my first training job, I realized that I was going to have to get my own clients. It wasn't just a full-time job. It was like I could have floor hours and, to sort of chat with the members. And there was a fitness director who I could ask questions. And there was just like a stack of agreement forms. So they were like, cool, just let us know if you need anything. And so so that's how I fell into entrepreneurship. I became an entrepreneur because I realized that I had to be. And so I learned pretty quick, and I did fill my roster of clients. I met absolutely great people. And then a lot of people, after they work in the gym, they'll transition to working with people in their homes because you can keep a larger portion of the rate that you charge. And so I transitioned to doing that, but then that was sort of a new thing to learn of how do I connect with people in their homes. And so I remember I printed out flyers, like I printed out postcards from, I don't know if it was like Vistaprint or something like that. And I literally dropped them off at every house by hand. And because, I didn't know how to send a mailer or, anything like that. And I was like, I'll just drop them off. And people called me, which was pretty cool. And, some notable people would email back and be like, hey, I got your postcard, can I set up some training? So I got to work with people in their homes, and then I started learning about digital marketing and online marketing. I took Jeff Walker's product launch formula, and that really went very in depth on how to set goals, how to clarify your ideal client, how to do competitor research, how to do voice of customer research, how to write copy, how to do funnel strategy, all of that stuff, email list building. And so it was centered around launches, but I learned so much. And then one of my mastermind partners, she had a launch that she did that didn't perform as well as she thought it would. So we decided that I would rework all of her sales materials and all of her messaging and all of her video sales letters and things like that. And then she would teach the course and set things up on the back end, and we would split the profits. And it was my very first one, so the results were small, but I was excited because it was my first one. We made like $3,000 and split it, and we met all of our launch goals. One of my goals was just to write the materials for a launch, and so I got to do that, and and we were happy. So that was pretty cool, and then it just evolved from there.
Suzanne, you mentioned having a steep learning curve when it came to connecting with clients, selling, and marketing early on. What were some of the biggest mindset shifts or aha moments that allowed you to overcome that initial anxiety and discomfort?
Absolutely. So I think one of the mindset shifts was going from, you know, I think marketing and sales has really come a long way, and a lot of people are a lot more respectful, more ethical, more looking for meaningful connection with clients. I still remember when I was younger that there would be the people who come to your door and try to sell you stuff and they won't leave, and they like weasel their way into the kitchen counter, and my parents would be like sitting there just like being like, how do we get this person out of our house? And so like I think that's why I didn't really like marketing or sales, because it sounded terrible. And I never wanted to do that to people. But then as I got into it, I realized all this is me connecting with people who I really enjoy being with, who need help and want help, and who I can help. And that's a great thing. And so I realized that there were ways to connect with people that were easy and respectful and meaningful. And if they wanted to continue with me, they could. And if they didn't, that's okay. And so I think that was a big mindset shift that helped me really enjoy this. So for me, it's a big game of listening and connection instead of anything that's pushy or different. So I think that was a really big mindset shift in me enjoying this work.
You talked about the importance of skillful listening to understand your clients' desires and fears. Can you share a specific example of how you've used that approach to craft a marketing strategy that was a true win-win for both you and the client?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, all the best results that I've gotten have been from using that process. And, just to give a little bit of a background on that, or to sort of set the stage, a lot of business owners think that they need to create ideas in their own mind. Like they think that they need to come up with the brilliant social posts or the perfect thing to say in an email, when they can really let the weight of that go and listen to what their ideal client is really asking. And so, as an example, one thing I recently came across is that people were saying, I hate how business or marketing people will just talk all around the concept and will not get to the details, the actionable, specific, and tangible details of the how or the what to do. So knowing that anywhere that it's appropriate, anywhere that people would like to know that, I'm really aware of sharing the how and the what to do and the specifics. So that's just one example of how, when I see something that people is wanting, then that gives me the opportunity to be able to respond to that. Or if people out there say, I've always been wondering, let's see, what do people ask? They're saying, how do I market my business in a way that is effective and feels good to me? Something like that. And so then I can respond to that. And it's, pretty much just choosing the channels you enjoy, connecting with people you enjoy connecting with, and getting in front of a lot of your clients, your ideal clients, sharing value, sharing a way that they can take the next step with you in your business. And so responding to what people want is so much easier than having to make it up in your own mind. So really, with everything I do, I mean, everything I've done is from doing voice of customer research, looking for people's hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations in past client communications and across the internet. I often research Amazon reviews for books on similar topics, as well as social posts that have a lot of engagement, or anywhere else where people are commenting on a topic. You can see the things that are emotionally charged. You can see the things that they want. You can see the things that they don't want. you can tell their stage of awareness about a topic. And so being able to take that language and then craft copy from it, you can craft a whole brand, you can craft offers, you can craft emails, you can craft the whole funnel, and you really just respond to what people are wanting, and that has really given the best results. So to give one specific example, so this example was recently top of mind. So in a previous job, I was asked to write the emails to fill an in-person event in Amsterdam. And it was so one thing that is really important, first of all, is that the offer itself is something that the ideal clients really want. It has to be an irresistible offer that people already really want and have the means to access. So, and that's so important. There's like no amount of copy that can save, an offer that people don't really want or is not the right fit. So this in-person event was with the 2 company leaders that people love spending time with, and they rarely do in-person events. So this was something that was very compelling, something people would already want. And so I knew this audience very, very well because I've been working with them for about 2 years at that time. So, great copy meets the audience at the conversation already happening in their own mind, and then channels their desires onto the product. And so basically I just had that really conversational flow of the message through the email. And after the first email sent, then I took the feedback and folded it into the second email. So I reinforced the messages that people were really resonating with. And then some people had questions like, how does this work with travel, or where should I stay? Or they were coming from other places in Europe and they weren't familiar with the area. So we made a point to clarify that and to handle that objection or that friction or that hang up for people who really wanted to go. And so, as we resolved those outstanding questions that people told us they had, then, I sent 3 emails, and then our social team posted that stuff on social as well. And between the combination of the 2, we sold out the event. And then they found a way to pack more chairs in the room, and then we filled those too. So yeah.
What are some common challenges business owners face when trying to identify their ideal clients? And how can they overcome these obstacles to ensure they target the right audience?
That's a really great question. So I think the where people often go wrong with their ideal client is they focus a lot on demographics. And I understand that because a lot of the recommendations out there say to, like, are they married, or where do they live, or do they have kids, or what is their gender, or, just really focuses on those demographics. And that can have a place, but I feel like it's really valuable to go one step further than that, especially back to the person's hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations, and what's happening in their life that's causing them to reach out to you for a solution. And this is really wonderful also because a lot of times people will have 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 ideal clients in mind, and it's really hard to write specific copy to like 3 different personas. So one thing that works really well with that is that if someone has, say, 3 personas in mind, but they can find the similarities between them in terms of their hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations, their emotional drivers, and what they're really wanting, then it can be easier to shape the message in a specific way that connects with all three of them. You still kind of want to pick a primary one, but it's easier to merge those. And so when people are looking to clarify their ideal client, and this can be at the very start as they're crafting their business, or further on down the line as they're revisiting this. Sometimes people shift and change it as they get more information on who they enjoy working with and who's a good fit. But what I recommend is that people consider an ideal client that, first of all, just to consider who they love being around. If they have had clients before, who are those people that you're just so happy to see them coming? You're so happy to work with them. You're happy that you have a meeting coming up. And consider, what is it about them that you enjoy? And this can be different for everybody. So some business owners might say, I love this person who's really like organized, on point, decisive, brutally honest, whatever. And then someone else might say, I love how this client is so empathic, in the flow. So it really depends on the business and the business owner as to who you prefer working with. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind, because these are the people that you're spending all your time with, and you're doing all this research for, and you're crafting offers for, and you're writing copy for, and you're answering questions. So I think it's really important to enjoy who you're spending your time around. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that it is also really important that the people you work with have the means, both time and money, to invest in your service, and they can comfortably do so, certainly if the value's there. And then it's the people who are so happy to find your product. They take it, they use it, they squeeze all the juice out of it. They get great results from it. They really see that transformation in their life. And then just by default, generally, they will be so happy to tell their friends about you. And so that is how, when you choose the right person, it allows for such great business sustainability, because that wheel of referrals and that wheel of customer happiness and that wheel of your own happiness just goes round. And it is so important to refine that. So often people will say, I really want to work with everyone. I work with business owners who are really passionate and they really want to help other people. So they have this tendency to say, well, this could change everybody's life. And I want to work with anybody. And so I totally get that. But if you don't sort of break this down and clarify it further, you can run into people who are not really ready for that product or service, or don't understand the value of that product or service, or are stressed by investing in that product or service. And that can create some real issues. So,
as an introvert extrovert yourself, how have you navigated building your own personal brand and online presence? What lessons have you learned that you think could benefit other founders who may not consider themselves natural marketers?
that's a tough one. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, I don't know if I have that one perfectly nailed. So I guess, all right, so with that in mind, as far as my own branding, I think I'll be really authentic with, that, like many people, that's probably like the 17th version of my brand. And I tend to make a new version when the last version starts to make me itch. And so it's just kind of like, so that is when the new version comes out. And I think each next version is better than the last, for sure. It is kind of funny, I'll just insert this in there, that I had this portfolio maybe like one version back, and it's wild. The design was okay, the colors were okay. It was just like a one-page portfolio, but people love it. And they kept buying from me from it. And so, as me knowing what a brand can be, I kept thinking like, man, I got to make this portfolio better. I got to redo this. But people, they kept choosing me. And so, if it's working, just let it work. And so I put my own thoughts aside for quite a while and thought, I'm just going to let this portfolio do its thing. So that's another factor. So I guess it's just, my process for doing both is there is no process. Like, it's kind of messy. I'll share something I learned from a colleague that I'm really working on implementing myself. It's Austin Church's morning marketing habit. And, it's the not so radical concept that, we have to be sharing ourselves. We have to be marketing ourselves in some way and connecting to new potential clients on the regular. So he starts his day by doing marketing tasks in the morning and then getting to anything else. And that way it always has a place. It's just like anything we want to prioritize. If we do it first, it's likely to get done. So I think it's so easy for everyone, including myself, to put marketing on the back burner, especially when we're super booked with projects. But we can't, because we need to be consistently meeting new people, because those projects will end. And, we need sort of the new flow to come in. So yeah, I think just finding a way to have it at the forefront some way or another on some kind of regular basis.
The business landscape is constantly changing. How often should entrepreneurs revisit and refine their ideal client profiles to stay relevant and financially stable?
It really does depend on the business. Even though the business landscape is always changing, I do like to go back to the fundamentals instead of chasing shiny objects and saying, oh, I'm supposed to be on this new platform or doing this new thing. I mean, those things are important to consider, but I think it can get people very, very scattered if they sort of follow too many new shiny objects or trends. So really, I think refining your ideal client is an ongoing thing. And in my experience, as I work with people, every single client, every single project, I gain insights on things about that client that worked great for me, and other things that I might want to shift in my super ideal client. Not everybody has to fit into that perfectly, but in just considering the type of person I most want to reach out to, that can be valuable. So yeah, I think it's really just paying attention to my own experience, or a business owner paying attention to their own experience with different types of people, and just taking those little nuggets to heart. And if usually they're somewhat subtle, but if they're big, they're somewhat subtle, so you can sort of keep marketing yourself in the same places, maybe with slightly different offers and slightly different ways. If you find there's something that's just really not working for you, you may have to make bigger changes. But I feel like just everyone you work with gives more insight into that.
You talk about the importance of choosing clients based on emotional drivers. What are some of these emotional drivers, and why are they so important in the selection process?
So I think certainly it can be a mix of emotional and logical reasons why somebody is looking for a solution, but it's basically getting a little deeper into the person. So when we were talking about demographics, I can't write a lot of marketing material based on whether somebody is married or not. But if I know that let me think of an example that I'm thinking of a client that I have. If someone is feeling stiff and achy when they wake up and they're having trouble getting up and down from the floor, that, they're missing out on being able to take vacations, run around with their grandkids, take the dogs on walks. And so, in so much of advertising, it's not about buying like a book or a download or a product. Like you're buying more time on the floor playing with your grandkids. It's totally different. And so if you can speak to those challenges of like, being frustrated by being stiff when you never were before, and really having to think about your health more than you ever did or ever wanted to, and it's kind of frustrating. And so when you speak to those things and then also speak to, do that future pacing of what their future could be instead if they utilize this product, and of course being ethical and truthful about that, speaking to that transformation is so much more powerful than speaking to their, this age or that age or whatever, because people can experience that differently.
How do emotional drivers play a role in building long-term client relationships? And what strategies can businesses use to meet these emotional needs continuously?
So I think it contributes to long-term success because you're connecting with people on a deeper level. It's just like any relationship, instead of being sort of a surfacey relationship, you're getting to know them deeper. You're helping them with things that really matter to them. You're helping them create more meaning in their lives. And then as they work with you and they see the results and they see the changes, typically they, if you have additional products that can help them further, they're very happy to continue on. And so that becomes a really long-term win-win for both sides. I believe we talked about getting to know your client with their hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations. So typically, I recommend people do a bulk of that work at the outset so they can see enough of the trends to put together the value proposition for their brand, to put together their email opt-in, to put their emails together, to sort of assemble everything. And then as they go along, to continue refining that knowledge of that person so they can continue. The better you know someone, the better you can meet their needs. So they will already have that bulk understanding of that person at the outset, but then as they go along, just like any relationship, you're going to get to know additional nuances about your ideal client. And so ideally you'll deepen that understanding, and then you can meet the needs even better.
Could you share a case study where a business successfully identified and acted on the emotional drivers of their ideal clients, leading to substantial business growth?
It's just about everyone, because when business, because this is the heart of what I do, and when business owners guess, that's where things fall flat, and that's where they spend a lot of time putting campaigns together and they don't work very well because they haven't. I get it, but when they haven't taken the time to get to know the person that they're creating that campaign for, there's a big risk of them missing the mark. So ever since I've started using this process, it's so much more effective for everything. And so, okay, so as another example, the same client I'm talking about who offers like mobility training and movement type stuff, they had a walking challenge that was leading up to a launch, and they asked me to write, I believe it was either the landing page or the sales page for the walking challenge. I'm not remembering the specifics of if it was a workshop or it was just like a monthly challenge or what, but either way, to your question, I got to know their audience very well. Certainly as part of the project, I have to be able to work effectively, and just absorbing everything about the ideal client and everything about the landscape. And it was close to Halloween. And so the page started out something like acknowledging that, like, we all know how to walk. Like, yeah, got that handled, like got that handled for like decades now. And so I'm good. Like, I don't really need help with walking. But, talking about how there is a way to walk that effectively engages your muscles, and sort of like, otherwise everyone's kind of walking around just lumbering around like Frankenstein. And so this brand has just, they're very professional, but they also have personality. So on the page they had like a GIF or a GIF, or how do you say it, with like Frankenstein like walking on the page, or like a Frankenstein emoji. And so I think that was really engaging for people, and that had like the highest conversion rate in their 9-year company history. I think it had like 70 some or 80 some conversions for the workshop. So it really connected with people. It really connected with probably what they think about walking right now, how they're low-key lumbering around like Frankenstein, and sort of the benefits of learning, like all the amazing benefits of learning a little bit of a different way about walking. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
You described the gift of objectivity as being so valuable when working with clients. How do you cultivate that outsider's perspective? And what are some of the key insights it has allowed you to uncover for the businesses you supported?
Certainly objectivity exists just by it not being my own brand. So it's really different looking at something that is your own thing. It's like you're the person in your own painting. So it's hard to tell what colors need to be adjusted, or it's just, we see our own stuff differently than we can see other people's. And so coming from that outside perspective, and also having the history of my training and experience in this area, I can really listen to the whole. I was just talking with someone else about this, of how people often come to me and they just have this whole big winding download that they share with me about their company. And they're always so apologetic. They're like, I'm sorry, I'm everywhere, and I'm just like dumping all this on you. And I'm like, no, it's perfect. Like, I want all the nuances. I want all the details. Just, you're perfect. Like, just keep speaking in this totally winding way, because I'm sort of taking in nuggets and making notes and just thinking of things that need to go here or there, or questions that I have, or I want to know every single nuance about a brand. And I also want to know what a specific person wants to create, because that is going to be so different for so many different people. And they also have different considerations that they need to keep in mind. And I've come across so many people that were not happy with their last consultant because they just didn't listen. I had somebody who was starting a tech company, and they worked with a consultant who told them that they had to post on LinkedIn regularly. And he kept telling the consultant, I can't do that because I have a full-time job and I'm not allowed to do that. And the consultant just kept saying, you need to post on LinkedIn. And then, so he was like, I just had to end it because I can't, like, and you're not hearing me. And I also worked with this woman who, she didn't really like social media, and she really wanted, it was a strong value for her that she really wanted to lean into meaningful in-person connection. And she really liked small groups, and she really wanted to connect in sort of like intimate workshops. And the last person she worked with kept saying, you have to post on Instagram like 5 times a day. You have to be on these social channels and engaged. And she was like, it's not me. I don't want it. I don't buy into the whole social thing. I don't want to live on social. And so she just got frustrated, and she came to me and she was like, I hate marketing. So but as we talked, we uncovered like that's why. And when I actually helped her connect with ways that she could connect with her ideal clients in ways that fit with her values and how she's naturally wired, she was excited again. And so it's really taking in everything about the person and the brand. And then, of course, using my training and experience and best practices to be able to help them reach their goals.
You mentioned the importance of meeting people where they are in terms of their business experience and comfort level with marketing. What are some practical strategies you use to assess a client's readiness and craft a plan that fits their specific needs and capabilities?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I uncover their needs just by listening. So certainly, and this is talking about people who do a discovery session or work with me specifically. So usually within that whole big, download with a whole bunch of different nuances and stuff, they share all of this with me. I don't know if this is something that happens with everybody or everywhere, but I generally found that I've gotten the feedback from people that they're comfortable talking with me. So, and people talk to me in the grocery store and different places. It's kind of a thing that just happens. They tell me and I hear it. And then from hearing it and understanding it, I've gotten the feedback from a friend that she's like, you're one of the places I can truly feel seen and heard and understood. And that's such an honor, and I share that as other people's words because I don't know, that's how I came to get to know that about myself. And so people share that. I really hear what they're telling me. And, with that woman who didn't want to be on social, and she was so passionate about her business and so excited about connecting with people. And when she said that she just hates marketing, I was just curious as to why, because if it's something that maybe I could solve or maybe I could help make easier, then we can make that easy. Okay. So I have connected with clients in a couple different ways. So the tech person I connected with on Upwork, I have done a good amount of work on Upwork. I'm top rated plus. I've made like over $60,000 on the platform. And I've met some great people on there. There's a lot of talk in the business space of like, get off Upwork or such and such. And I get the pros and cons, but I've also connected to a lot of great people. So that is one avenue. There's also another way that I've connected with people that I think a lot of people can relate to is just finding people organically. Let's see, so the tech guy I worked with on Upwork, the woman who didn't want to be on social, she was actually a barter client a while ago. I found her through a coaches group that was open to coaching each other, and we matched up with a coach and a client a lot like we did in coach training, and we worked that way. I have found one of my copywriting clients, they posted in a couple different clients posted in a writers group asking for looking for a copywriter, and I responded to them and they chose me. So I worked with them as a client, and they'll write a little bit about their business or what they're looking for. So from that, I can tell if they're a fit. It's usually people who are looking for something that's conversion focused, looking for someone who's strategic. So I found people both on Upwork and organically and by referral. And now I'm in the process of building my business in a more focused way so that I'm building my email list more and more intentionally meeting people and nurturing that relationship and building from there. I hope that did that answer the question?
As an introvert, extrovert yourself, how have you navigated building your own personal brand and online presence? What lessons have you learned that you think could benefit other founders who may not consider themselves natural marketers?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I think it relates a little bit to your question before. So I believe that there are a lot of different ways to be successful in terms of both how you structure your business and how you connect with potential clients. So when we're just talking about, say, marketing and how you connect with potential clients, that can look like so many different things. Some people, there's social, there's different social channels, there's public speaking, there's like I said, facilitating workshops. Like for that introvert, the specific strategy that we came up with for her is to connect with yoga studios or other places that would have those small intimate workshops, and the audience already assembled, and she could go in and teach the workshop and connect with new people and create that value and offer a next step for people to connect with her if they choose. And she loved that. And so then, the yoga studio will also share about the workshop, and then she would share about the workshop. And she was okay with a little bit of social media. She just didn't want to be on it like all day. So she could post about it. And so that was a real good matchup for her. There is being a guest on podcasts. There's all these different ways you can connect with ideal clients. So I recommend that people consider the place, once they craft their ideal client, consider the different places that they're hanging out in large numbers and see maybe one or two of those avenues that you really enjoy. So for me, I like audio. I've gotten the feedback that people appreciate me on audio. Then it turns out that it's also video, so whatever, But, so I'm like, oh, okay, I thought it was audio, but video is okay. And so, for me, this is a space that I really enjoy. And basically it's, just a conversation between me and you, but then it's getting shared out. And that's really comfortable for me. And it's a place that I enjoy sharing value. So I pursue that. And I believe it's a win-win because I'm sharing value, we're sharing each other, and yeah, there's just a good matchup there. So that is something that I chose. I'm also learning about PR and pursuing mentions in big media publications because that's where I can reach a really big and reputable audience and have a lot of people come to me without me needing to work with the social algorithm and content for years and do that whole thing. I still post on social, but it's something that gives me a lot more leverage. So that I'm enjoying learning about. So I think it's really important for people to understand that there is more than one way to be successful. Look at the places where their ideal clients are hanging out and then choose one or two of those avenues as to ways that they can connect with their ideal client, share value, offer a next step if anyone would like to continue with them. And in that way, it becomes really easy, matched up with your values. You join the process.
As a business coach and marketing strategist, how do you help your clients cultivate that same sense of curiosity and willingness to take calculated risks? What specific mindset shifts or frameworks do you guide them through to overcome fear and embrace new opportunities?
That's a really great question. I think I am a huge advocate for, building and growing a business. It can it can bring up so much in terms of how you approach risk, how you manage risk, how you deal with things that are confronting. Sometimes there are really established business owners who don't seem that anxious, but it really grinds their gears when they're about to change the homepage. There's stuff that just gets everybody. And sometimes the risk is okay, and sometimes it doesn't feel okay, and everything in between. So I think it's an emotional journey, no matter how you're wired, and different people handle that differently. So I am aware of that. I extend a lot of grace with that. I share insights with that. And I tend to not go too deep, mostly because people come to me and they're like, just tell me what to do. And so they're looking more for they're like, I'm tired, just tell me what to do. And so they're looking more for the actionable strategies. So I typically don't go too deep with people, and that's fine. I can sort of dial that up or down. But back to your question about how do I help people manage risk or not, I think mostly people are just wired the way they are, and they're not really looking for a lot of feedback on that. And people have they have all kinds of different risk tolerances, and it really just depends on the person. And certainly that evolves over time as they get to know themselves and they get to know me. But yeah, that's everybody's a little different in that regard.
Suzanne, you mentioned that you're willing to take risks when enough of the knowns are in place and you have the resilience to bounce back if needed. How do you assess that balance between known factors and unknown risks when deciding to pursue a new opportunity? What are some of the key indicators you look for?
You've really done your research. That's a great question. um, so I think it depends. This has changed for me over time. So I feel like in the past, I have had much more of a capacity for taking risks. I've taken big risks, like moving to new places, moving across the country, not knowing anybody, not having anything planned, like just, and in hindsight, I'm like, man, that was risky. Like that really took some, what do you call it? Not ignorance, but like,
It's bravery.
yeah, bravery.
It's not ignorance, definitely. It's bravery.
Thank you. And just really following my intuition completely, which I still do, but I think I've really made a point to bring in a lot more logic and grounding, and I've worked on myself a lot, and it, that's brought me to be more balanced, and I think I've actually swung to be a lot safer. I sort of like swung the other way. So I'm trying to bring in a bit more balance of, let's bring in some more risk and sort of find that more of a sweet spot in the middle. And I think the way I assess, what's a known or an unknown, I think it's either clearly tangible or it's felt in a bit of an intangible way, whether like the scales have tipped into like, let's go or not. And, the knowns being like, man, for that crazy leap, like, how am I going to get there? When am I going? Like, man, I had so few knowns in place, but I was so sure about going. So I think just the things that are clearly tangible, and then also just that felt sense.
You shared how a random idea from a past client led to an incredible opportunity to teach at Rancho La Puerta. What is your process for staying open to serendipitous connections and unexpected possibilities, even when you're focused on executing your core business strategy?
That's another really good question. So I think it's a constant process, because even just energetically, it's so easy, for me anyway, to get hyper focused on what I'm working on, to lose track of time, to get, dedicated in the details. And that can lead to a little bit of closed offness. And so it's a balance of staying focused and, connecting with that driven side of me, but also just having the intention to stay open. And that is just a constant practice. And yeah, it's just an ongoing practice. And the more that I can take breaks or be in nature or, work out or those types of things, it's easier for me to stay open. But, work-life balance is not just this like cut and dry thing. So it is a moving, fluid process for me anyway. And I think, yeah, it's so cool when those things come through. I think it's looking for them, just being open that they could exist. It was really just a client that I was working with who one day she was like, I go to Rancho La Puerta every year and you should totally get in touch with them. And they always have guest instructors. You should do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got in touch with them and they said, yeah. And, so I got to go teach this destination spa in Mexico and bring a friend and hang out at the spa for a week. And it was really great. And they have really delicious food and beautiful hiking, and people should check them out. And then there was another client who said something like, she was like, have you ever thought about being featured in Daily Candy? And this was a newsletter that has since, they tried to sell it and then it didn't work, and the company folded. But at the time, this was like it was like a high end, it was an upscale lifestyle brand that had these cute little cartoon drawings. As this email that went out to, I want to say 3 million people. Don't quote me on that, but they had a pretty big audience. Yeah. And they were really well regarded. And so she was like, what if you got on Daily Candy? She was like, my eyebrow lady got on there and she got like all this business. So then I started just asking some questions. I think I was in a shop the one day and they had a thing that they were featured in Daily Candy. And I was like, oh, how did you do that? And so she gave me the name of the editor. And then I connected with the editor, and then I got featured in Daily Candy. And then once I was featured in Daily Candy, the Washington Post saw my feature and they reached out. So then I got quoted in the Washington Post, and things snowballed, and like, that's so cool. And so it's awesome to stay open.
Absolutely right. Success in business often comes down to one critical strategy: positioning yourself where opportunities can find you. Waiting for luck and chance to come your way is a passive approach that rarely yields results. Instead, you must actively create opportunities by positioning yourself strategically. This means networking, staying visible in your industry, continually learning, and being ready to seize opportunities when they arise. By putting yourself out there and staying proactive, you increase your chances of encountering the right people, ideas, and opportunities that can propel your business forward. Position yourself for opportunity and watch how doors begin to open.
That's so true. And I think one of the ways that I approach this is by I have an ongoing practice of caring for my mental health, both with professional resources and also with self-care. And I feel like that really helps me to stay centered instead of getting lost in my mind or, stuck in being too focused, or just all of those things that we can be as humans. And so just having that practice to care for myself as best as I possibly can keeps my mind as centered as it can be and as open as it can be. And then that allows me to access more self-care. Then that opens my mind. Then I eat better. Then I try more things. And it's sort of what I call an upward spiral. And, and so it's really just a practice of mine to get or stay on those upward spirals. Definitely an imperfect practice, for sure. I'm totally human.
Definitely.
But I think having those skills and those practices in place really, really helps, because then I look for more things and I connect for more things, and I can, it's a real cool snowball.
You described your passion for using your skills for good by working exclusively with mission-driven brands and solopreneurs. What are some of the unique challenges you've encountered in that niche, and how have you adapted your approach to best serve those types of clients?
Gotcha. Okay. So I think in the work that I do, we already touched on this a little bit. Everybody
Yeah.
coming to me has a different level of understanding that they're working with. So some people are completely new to digital marketing. Some people have had many successful companies in the past. And even the people who have had successful companies in the past, many of those were built on word of mouth, and they don't understand the steps required to build, what's the word, a more predictable online business system. So it really goes back to listening to what they're looking to accomplish. I try to set appropriate expectations. Sometimes people have very appropriate expectations. Sometimes people have less so. I think a lot of times that is informed by just all the headlines and the just astronomical metrics that we see. You know, everybody naturally puts their best foot forward, but when that's all you see, you think that it's that everybody can have a $5,000 webinar next week or can make $100,000 in 30 days, whatever. And I do believe those metrics are real, but it doesn't, like, is the issue with social media in general, it doesn't always tell the whole story of, you know, how many years has this person been working at this, and how many failed tries did they have, and what kind of training do they have, and what kind of personality. So
Absolutely right. Sometimes you'll see businesses boasting impressive revenue figures, but a closer look reveals that they're pouring huge amounts of cash into ads and marketing without actually turning a profit. They might be playing the long game, or there might be underlying issues with their strategy. The bottom line is, big numbers don't always equate to success. Without profitability, there's no real win. Don't be misled by flashy figures. True success comes from sustainable profits.
exactly.
Definitely.
And so it's really, and I will give a lot of people credit that some people come with very appropriate expectations. They're like, I know this takes time. I want to learn. I want to, you know, I'm either going to see the wins or I'm going to cultivate my ability to create the wins. And, you know, they get it. So, and I'm always for like the quickest wins possible, but, you know, I'm very effective, but I'm not a magician. So I tell people that. And so really it goes back to that thing of really listening to what they're saying and the strengths that they have and the things that, you know, their opportunities for learning, and sort of the how much of what, and that's them as a person, as well as what strengths does the business have, what challenges is it having, and just what are they looking to accomplish. And so then basically we just focus in on what's the easiest and most powerful path from where they are to where they're going. And so again, you know, the work I do is based on, research and data and best practices, but it's always tailored to the individual.
You mentioned several individuals who saw your brilliance and were effortlessly empowering during pivotal moments in your career. What lessons have you learned from those mentors and supporters about the power of encouragement and how you can pay that forward to the entrepreneurs you work with?
I think it takes a certain type of individual to really do it right. The people I have in mind with that. So one was the fitness director who I worked with at the gym where I first worked. And even though I was fresh out of school, I had never signed a personal training client. It was my first time, you know, working in a gym. Like, I was so scared. So, like, I was just, but he saw he saw the best things in me. He saw my strengths. He saw how much I cared. He saw how knowledgeable I was. And if I asked a question, so number one, that is everything. Just seeing the brilliance in another person. And, you know, even if they're like a little tired and are not really maybe seeing it themselves 100%, but it's there. And they reflect that in you. And that's so huge. And so then sometimes I would come to him with questions, and he would either ask a question in response that really made me think, or he would share a piece of information that really made me think, or he would give me something to think about to come back to him with. Like, he really cultivated my ability to think for myself. And I think those are the qualities in almost every person that I think of that really made a difference for me as a mentor. And I believe that I am able to do that with others. I believe that I do that in return. Hopefully out in the world, sometimes it's a practice. It's not always easy with everyone, but I think I can sort of see through just, I don't know, whatever humanness or whatever tiredness or whatever insecurity, and be like, hello, I see your brilliance.
Definitely.
And like, you're not struggling as hard as you think you are, and you have these strengths, and let me help you out of these other strengths. And it's so huge, because I think, in contrast, there's another studio where I worked with, and I was learning. It was like my first day, that they were like making fun of me, making little jabs, being like, oh, you're doing that again. And that's never going to bring the best out of a person. Like, don't do that. Like, it's not helping anybody. So when people take jabs at me, oh God, because it happens a lot. It happens a whole lot, just in life and wherever.
Being strong and relentless is crucial as an entrepreneur. Along the journey, you'll face criticism and countless rejections. The amount of no's you encounter can be overwhelming at times. People, even those close to you, might call you crazy. These moments are especially tough to endure. That's why resilience is such a valuable trait. Always remember your vision and the big picture you're working towards. And you have to keep pushing forward no matter what.
Absolutely. And I think so. My thoughts on your question are twofold. One is, anything that's like an opt-in space where I'm choosing to be there. And yeah, I mean, if someone's just sort of like picking at my insecurities, putting me down, taking little jabs, whatever, I just don't stay. There's like a service provider that I was going to that was just started out seemingly respectful, but then was going down that train, and I was like, this is just stressful for me to be here. So I just went to somebody else. I was like, wow, I'm not going to come here for this. And so then other people that are tougher to walk away from, that's why I go to therapy, to just keep working on my inner self, so that stuff just sticks less, and so that I can navigate that better and just have a clearer inner slate and better tools to be able to handle that. But yeah, the people that I can walk away from, like, I don't know, it's not worth it.
If you could gift a single book to every entrepreneur in the world, which one would it be and why? Also, can you share one or two books that profoundly shaped your entrepreneurial journey and mindset?
One book that just keeps it just keeps speaking to me right now it's called Touch the Top of the World. It's by Eric Weinmeier. I'm into rock climbing, and he is a guy who went blind in high school, and he became a mountaineer. And I loved the book. I think if I remember correctly, I think there's a movie. Don't watch the movie, read the book. It's so good, and I just really enjoyed it, and it just really touched my soul, and I really appreciate it. And of course, it's about vulnerability and being uncomfortable and making mistakes and persevering. And so I don't know that I read it with business in mind, but it absolutely applies. The other book that comes to mind goes back to, I really am aware that doing product launch formula, I learned so much of what I teach today from that, because like I said, beyond launches, he really goes into so much deeper stuff. So certainly it's all within the context of launches. So keep that in mind. Launches are not everything, but there's a lot of those other concepts in there that are really good. And so, I mean, I'm thinking of the course. He does also have a book, which I don't think I read the whole thing because I went through the course instead.
Okay.
But yeah. Oh, the other book that's really good is the books by Joanna Wiebe. She is the founder of Copy Hackers, and I got these ebooks way back in the day, and she's recently republished them as physical books. One of them is Where Stellar Messages Come From, and it's just so good. A lot of people think they can write because we've been writing since, many people, not everyone, has been writing since elementary school. They're like, yeah, I know how to write, but no, she's talking about messaging for business. Beautiful, beautiful books. I would read anything by her, take a course, any of her courses.
Can you recall a moment when a failure, either yours or your parents, unexpectedly set the stage for a future success? What is the story behind your favorite failure, and how did it become a pivotal moment in your career?
I have so many, it's hard to pick just one. I've gained so much wisdom through this. My own journey is perfect for what it is, but anytime I can make another person's process easier, like that is what drives me. I'm like, let me just help you make this not so hard. So I think, this recently came to mind, and I think it's a good example. So really early on in my career, or like really early on in digital marketing, I hired a copywriter to write like a couple social posts that were very sales focused messaging. And I wanted the copywriter to basically put together a message that would get me sales. And he let me know that yes, copy is powerful. However, you can put out the best message in the world if it's to a cold audience who hasn't heard from me in a really long time, or never heard of me, or doesn't really know what I do or what I offer, that is going to be really tough to convert. And he was like, I'll give it my best shot, but I'm just letting you know that it's a small chance that this will work. But I was like, no, copy's amazing. I trust you. This will be great. And so he put together this message, and I put it out, and like nothing happened, and I was really disappointed. And I think it's a common thing that people think that copy is just like magic on its own. It's just this total magic wand, and it is very powerful. However, it really needs to be considered. I mean, looking back, he was really telling me the right thing. I could have gotten a couple sales, but it wasn't very likely. And I can see that now, that it's really important that copy be, yes, each message strategically, but also considering the entire customer journey of how those messages fit together. It's just like how a TV show can be funny and complete on its own, but there's also a factor of how it fits within the whole series. And so having that not work, I think, really got me thinking of why it didn't work and how it could work, and then learning more about a comprehensive customer journey and a comprehensive strategic messaging strategy that was an ongoing conversation with an ideal client to nurture the relationship and share value and share offers at the right time. And that really I think spurred me to think more deeply about what could be more effective.
Reflecting on the past 5 years, what new belief or habit have you adopted that has significantly transformed your life and work? How has this change impacted your day-to-day actions and long-term goals?
Definitely. So in the last 5 years, I think the thing that's made the biggest difference has been working on my mental health and my inner self. It's something that I think people don't talk about as much, but like I said, business really can trigger so much. It's about, you have to deal with rejection, you have to deal with critics, you have to deal with failure, you have to deal with being seen, you have to deal with, putting your absolute all into everything and have it go nowhere. You have to deal with like your responsibility for making investments that either work or don't work, people liking what you do or not liking what you do. And so and being like creative in the middle of all of it is really hard. And so, and money stuff, any kind of money stuff. And so it really like touches at the heart of all this really deep stuff. And, when people don't work on it, or, when I don't work on it, I get quiet. I shut down a little, and that's not good for business. Some other people start to yell. Sometimes at the end of moments of launches, sometimes I get a little directive, And so it's like the more a person can be balanced in this stuff, and I say balanced very loosely because we are all just complex, perfectly imperfect human beings. But the more balance, like the more I can consistently stay on track with my work, the more I can connect with people without feeling anxious, the more I can be seen without, being anxious. It's just all this stuff that I can do from a more centered place. And I see the same with other people also. Like I said, they'll be the most centered person in the world, but then you go to change the homepage and not that centered anymore. And so I work with a lot of clients where this is a really highly emotional process for them too. So I think the more that we can work on our own selves, as I believe as we grow, our business grows. And so that is something that I have found just so important to work on. And I think also I'll say this, as I have learned more about myself, it's not only not only healed a lot, but learned more about myself. I've learned more about, I keep evolving in the type of work I want to do and the type of clients I want to work with and the type of schedule I want to have. I used to be ravenously driven, and I have cultivated more balance now. So I love my work, but I know that I'm not someone who can work, nonstop, 10 hours a day, every day, or be like grinding and stuff. I just can't. I love this, but I need balance. And so the more I work that in, the more things become sustainable, the happier I am, and it goes on. So
Imagine you have the chance to put up a billboard in the heart of Times Square with a message for millions to see. What would your message be, and what do you hope people take away from it?
okay, so I have two.
Okay.
The one for the general population that comes to mind is some version of like, be yourself, honor yourself, trust your own knowing, craft the life that you care for. So, I think it's a really strong tendency for people to, we all do this. I'm still working through this stuff, to sort of be the person other people want us to be, or to people please, or, but it's like, we're one unique person. And the more that we can, yes, honor other people and help other people, but also honor ourselves and strive for that mutuality, and being who we are. And I think that's really cool and just makes life really rich. And if it was just a digital marketing Times Square, if it was like just like a Times Square where like only passionate solopreneurs go. Like, oh my God, that would be crazy. That would be ridiculous. Um, it would be, there's absolutely work to do, but don't make it harder than it is.
Sometimes the smallest investments make the biggest impact. What purchase of $100 or less in the last 6 months has had a surprisingly positive effect on your life, and why?
All right, so I'll just give the super honest answer. So I'm sure there are many things, but the one thing that comes to mind is that I love delicious food. And but yeah, but if I get too stressed, then I start eating just like I don't eat enough of it at all. And then, I'll just eat like cookies or pretzels or just like whatever. But that's like a really bad cycle to get on because it's just, I don't know, like we need food. I need to like eat enough. And so recently I have been cooking from the Love and Lemons cookbook, which I adore. It's like vegetable forward recipes that are really simple, but they're really well put together. Just they're so good. And so that book and like a vegetable haul from the local co-op that's been in like the last month or two. And it has been just the cooking has been very satisfying. The eating the food has been very satisfying. Even the shopping for vegetables, like just the whole situation has been making me very happy. And the more that I eat well and the more that I enjoy those kinds of pastimes, then the more that business and just everything flows better.
What advice would you give a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world? Conversely, what advice should they ignore?
So definitely get a job while you're building because it takes time, especially if you're just starting out and you don't have previous skills, experience, perspective, all that stuff. So get a job, it'll be way less stressful and build it on the side. And then I think along with that, one thing I've found to be very true is that the people who reach their goals are the people who decide that they're going to. And no matter what comes up, they work their way through it. So if they have a question, they find the answer. If they run out of money, they get a job. If they don't know what to do, they ask. No matter what, if they get stuck, they find a way to get unstuck. If they mental blocks, they clear the mental block. Just whatever it is, the people who get to the goals are the people who decide they're going to get to their goals. They do it. And just keep asking questions. And then the thing to ignore is, okay, so the people who should be giving feedback on your business are, say, like an experienced mentor in the space who you trust, or your audience, the feedback from your audience. And everybody else, like, you can acknowledge like their care, you can acknowledge their intention, you can acknowledge that, but like, if they're just tossing ideas out, just take it with like a huge grain of salt and just like let that slide.
When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what strategies or practices do you use to regain clarity and drive?
That's a great question. So I think sometimes it's okay, many things. I have lots of tools for this. So one thing, it's like look to the basics. There's a website called Why Do I Feel Like Expletive? And it basically takes you through these prompts. It's like, have you eaten in the last 4 hours? Yes or no? like sometimes we just forget the most obvious stuff. Sometimes I'm so overwhelmed and I'm like, oh, I just needed a sandwich. Like I just, and so then it's like, how much sleep did you get last night? And then it's like, how much? So it's just like looking at those basics when was the last time you took a walk? Or when was the last time you moved your body or something like that? So it's like trying to look at the basics. Then I also use somatic practices that can help to calm the nervous system, just different types of. I have a course that I use for this. I've done like EMDR and stuff. So there's different like breathing or tapping sequences or things like that, body positions to take. So I'll go through that. Sometimes I just straight up need a nap.
Yeah.
And if I have the flexibility in the day, I will take it. It's a great reset. It's a great reset. And yeah. And also sometimes I go too fast from one thing to the next, and I've learned that really kind of jams up my brain. So I try to leave space in advance so that doesn't happen, so that I can just take a little space going from one thing to the next. But if I do go too fast and I get jammed in, then I have to just slow down and come back and use my tools and reground and refine the space. And working out usually feels really good to me too. So yeah, there are a bunch of different stuff that I.
Suzanne, as an entrepreneur, maintaining personal health and fitness can often be as crucial as managing a business. Can you share how you integrate fitness and well-being into your busy schedule, and what impact do you feel it has on your effectiveness as a leader?
Yeah. So I will say I have a lot of grace about this. I'm probably different than, when people hear I'm a trainer, they think I eat egg whites and religiously at 6 a.m. and all this stuff. I'm just like not that person. And so I really like being active, hiking and rock climbing and, just like the elliptical and yoga and stuff like that. So, but I really make a point to listen to my body for what I need most. And if I am tired, I rest. So, and if I'm tired for weeks, I rest. The more active I am, the more refreshed my brain is also. So I do try to make a point to fit it in. And if I'm feeling pretty low energy, I will start with a gentle yoga, like literally starts from laying down, and that can sort of refresh the energy a bit. And so I choose what's feeling right in any moment, though I understand the benefits of a more structured approach, which is cool. I can have that awareness and sort of, I know where I'm at, but I also have a lot of grace about it. But I do find that the more I can connect to it, the more just everything in my life works better. To me, it's so refreshing. And it's something that I really enjoy. I also work out moderately. I think people, I think the industry teaches people to grind and just, it's like people think exercise has to be like, running the bleachers in 95-degree heat or whatever. And it's like, listen, if you ratchet that back by 10%, you're actually getting like probably better benefits unless you're like on a track team or something. And you're going to enjoy it so much more, and you're going to want to come back tomorrow. And, I've always encouraged people to, do things that they enjoy or enjoy well enough. So I think that's why I enjoy it so much, because I'm nice to myself and I work out moderately and I do things that make me happy. So, and then that has that super upward spiral effect. So I highly encourage other people to take that approach. And like, here's the thing. So, okay, so my first choice is probably hiking and climbing. They're a little far for me right now, so I don't get there all the time. I mean, you have to learn the safety.
Oh.
You have to learn like how to be safe about it and how to, keep people safe on the wall and how to work with the ropes and stuff. But if you have access to it, it's so fun. It's so fun. It's not like cliffhanger. Like it's not like this adrenaline fueled, daredevil movie, like the type of climbing I do in the gym. They literally have like little kid birthday parties that they come in on Saturdays, and like the 6 and 7-year-olds are like, "Go, Jimmy!" Like, you can choose your level of risk, and you should choose it wisely and responsibly. But you can climb in a very low risk way, and it's super fun. But yeah, so it's like doing some of this fun that's like crazy strength building. And then just also giving another example that I think most people can relate to. Like, I hate running. I have always hated running. I'm just, it feels terrible. I'm not good at it. And I just, every time I start, I want to stop, you know? But like during the pandemic, I spent a good deal on an elliptical. And so I bought an elliptical to have at home. And I get on the elliptical and I watch Queer Eye and I watch Tan France like dress up these people. And like, I am happy as a plant. Like, I am so happy. Or in the past, I used to watch cooking shows. So it's like, there's so many options. It's just like we were talking about with marketing. There are like 1,000 different ways to do it. And if you're looking for specific goals, like different things are better for different things. But if you're just looking to move your body, there are like 1 trillion options. Like, just choose what brings you.
Absolutely, just move your body. Sometimes simply dancing and bringing joy to a moment can make a huge difference. It's far better than doing nothing. I always advise people to focus on their fitness and well-being, even while working hard. Working like crazy without taking care of your health is not sustainable. Without good health, how can you truly benefit yourself and the world? It's crucial to make time to take care of our health, as you mentioned. Business is really difficult. It's a challenging path, and unless you've experienced it, it's hard to fully understand. Not everyone is cut out to be a business owner or an entrepreneur, and that's okay. It's not meant for everybody, and it's important to recognize that.
Absolutely. And I even saw a colleague of mine, she's a career coach, and man, she's like one of the most driven people I have ever met. She is like prolific and productive and on point just like all the time. And I remember she was talking about how she had plans for how to, double her income every year. And I saw recently that like somewhere she was like, man, some days I just think about going back to corporate, and it's like, if this girl is like tired or like thinking about going back to corporate, like the rest of us like barely have a chance. Like, she's, I mean, we all have value and gifts, but it's like, man, this person is just like really hardy. She's just really like hardworking. And she's like, man, corporate. Sometimes I just want to go back to corporate.
Thank you, Suzanne Reilley.
Definitely. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me, and I'd be happy to do this.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Entrepreneurship Unboxed. What an incredible session with Suzanne Reilley. From crafting the perfect ideal client profile to understanding the emotional drivers that make client relationships thrive, today's episode was filled with actionable insights and powerful stories. Remember, your clients are the heartbeat of your business. By focusing on who they truly are and what they emotionally connect with, you can create a foundation for sustainable success and meaningful impact. If you found today's episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your fellow entrepreneurs. Stay tuned for more unboxed truths and transformative strategies right here on Entrepreneurship Unboxed. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and chasing your entrepreneurial dreams.